My dear friends, in life, we don't rise because of the people around us. We rise because of the right people around us. And sometimes the greatest act of self-love is not who you let in, it's who you walk away from. Today, let's talk about the 5 types of people you must stay away from. Not because they are bad, but because your peace, your purpose, and your progress deserve protection. The constant complainer is someone who slowly steals the sunshine from your day without you even realizing it. When you sit with them, you may enter the conversation with hope, with energy, with light, but you leave feeling heavier than when you came. They have a unique talent. No matter how beautiful something is, they will find a flaw in it. You show them an opportunity, they show you a problem. You share a dream, they share a doubt. You talk about growth, they talk about what could go wrong. And the most dangerous part is this: the negativity doesn't arrive with thunder. It arrives quietly, slowly, softly, like a shadow creeping across a bright room. When someone constantly complains, even about things that don't directly affect them, they create an environment where positivity suffocates. Their words begin to shape the atmosphere around you. You start to second guess your own excitement. You begin to shrink your own ambitions just because sitting with them makes everything feel too difficult, too risky, or not worth trying. It's not that their life is harder than yours. It's that they carry a lens that only shows what's missing, not what's possible. And here's the painful truth: spending too much time with someone like this doesn't just drain your energy, it changes your mindset. You begin to echo their thoughts without realizing it. You begin to mirror their tone. You begin to become someone who explains why things can't work instead of discovering how they can. That's why it's so important to be aware, because negativity is infectious, and chronic complainers unknowingly spread it with every conversation. But remember, we're not judging them. Every complainer carries a story. Maybe disappointment, maybe fear, maybe past wounds. We can offer compassion, we can offer understanding, but we cannot offer our mental peace as sacrifice. That's where the boundary lies. Caring doesn't mean carrying. Loving doesn't mean lowering your own vibration. You can listen, you can guide, but you must not allow their complaints to become your worldview. Distance doesn't always mean walking away. Sometimes it simply means reducing the space they occupy in your heart and mind. Sometimes it means guiding the conversation towards positivity, or limiting how much of their emotional weight you let yourself absorb. When you protect your energy from constant complainers, you're not abandoning them. You're preserving your ability to stay joyful, hopeful, and inspired. Because at the end of the day, your life is too precious to be lived under a cloud someone else keeps pulling over you. Surround yourself with people who see the good, who notice the beauty, who appreciate the small blessings. People whose presence feels like fresh air, not emotional pollution. When you reduce the influence of constant complainers in your life, you create space for gratitude, clarity, and growth. And that choice alone can change the entire tone of your journey. The chronic criticizer is one of the most silently damaging influences in anyone's life, because their negativity doesn't come from a place of concern. It comes from a habit of finding faults. No matter how much effort you put in, no matter how sincere your intention is, these are the people who will always highlight the one thing you missed instead of the 100 things you did right. And the tragedy is that over time, their voice becomes louder than your own inner voice. Being around someone who constantly criticizes you feels like walking through life with a weight tied to your confidence. You begin to feel like nothing you do is ever enough. You start shrinking, doubting, hesitating before you even begin. They make you feel like you must earn their approval. But the truth is, their approval doesn't exist. They themselves don't know how to give it. They are so used to seeing flaws that even beauty looks incomplete to them. Even effort looks insufficient. Even progress looks slow. And it's not just what they say, it's how they say it. Their tone slices deeper than their words. Their expressions speak louder than their sentences. They can ruin a moment of joy with a single look, a single remark, a single "Him, you could have done better." Over time, this constant stream of criticism creates a psychological pattern inside you. You stop celebrating yourself. You stop acknowledging your own wins. You stop recognizing your growth because you're conditioned to look for what's wrong instead of what's right. The chronic criticizer often believes they're helping. They think they are correcting, improving, fixing, guiding. But in reality, their approach does more harm than good. Constructive feedback inspires you, chronic criticism weakens you. One fuels growth, the other suffocates it. When you spend too much time with such a person, you start believing their perspective is the truth. You start adjusting your personality, your dreams, your expressions, just to avoid their next judgment. And in that process, you lose pieces of yourself. But here's where awareness becomes your strength. Once you recognize the pattern, you can protect your mind from absorbing it. You can emotionally distance yourself from their opinions. Their criticism doesn't have to become your identity. Sometimes, people criticize not because you are doing something wrong, but because they are struggling with their own insecurities, their own frustrations, their own lack of fulfillment. And the only way they know to cope is by projecting that pain onto others. So what should you do? You don't need to argue with them. You don't need to prove yourself to them. You simply need to remember that your worth is not measured by their comments. Surround yourself with people who appreciate your effort, not just point out your imperfections. People who celebrate your progress instead of magnifying your weaknesses. People who help you grow with kindness, not crush you with harshness. When you distance yourself from chronic criticizers, you give your confidence permission to breathe again. You give your creativity space to flow again. You give your heart a chance to feel proud again. Your journey becomes lighter because you're no longer dragging someone else's dissatisfaction behind you. And slowly, you begin to rediscover your authentic self, the one who is capable, deserving, growing, and worthy of love and respect. Life becomes beautiful when the voices around you uplift you instead of breaking you. And by choosing who gets access to your emotional world, you choose the quality of your future. The manipulator is one of the most exhausting and confusing personalities you can ever deal with because their influence doesn't hit you like a loud thunderstorm. It arrives like gentle rain that slowly floods your entire emotional world. They don't control you with force, they control you with feelings of guilt, obligation, fear, and responsibility that don't actually belong to you. They twist situations in such subtle ways that you start questioning yourself instead of questioning their behavior. And that's what makes manipulation so dangerous. It doesn't steal your freedom instantly. It steals it quietly, piece by piece. A manipulator knows exactly how to use your kindness against you. They know you are caring. They know you are loyal. They know you are soft hearted, and they use those strengths as tools to bend you in directions that serve their needs, not yours. If you say no, they make you feel like you're selfish. If you set a boundary, they make you feel like you're hurting them. If you stand up for yourself, they suddenly become the victim. You end up apologizing for things you never did, agreeing to things you never wanted, and carrying responsibilities that were never yours. The most painful part is that manipulators are often very charming. They can be sweet, emotional, affectionate, and understanding when they want something. They study your weaknesses, not to heal them, but to use them. They know which words trigger your compassion, which situations make you feel guilty, which silences make you anxious. They don't always lie directly. Sometimes they simply bend the truth, hide details, or play innocent until you start doubting your own judgment. You begin thinking, maybe I am overreacting, maybe I am being harsh, maybe I misunderstood. But deep inside, your heart knows something is off. Being with a manipulator feels like being trapped in emotional quicksand. The harder you try to keep the relationship stable, the deeper you sink. And what makes it worse is that manipulators rarely take responsibility. Everything becomes your fault. Their mood, their mistakes, their decisions, their disappointments. You end up feeling obligated to fix things for them over and over again. You exhaust yourself trying to make them happy, only to discover that their happiness was never in your hands. It was just a way to control you. But here is the truth you need to hear. Their manipulation is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of their insecurity. They manipulate because they fear losing control. They manipulate because they don't trust honesty to keep people around. They manipulate because they haven't learned healthy ways to communicate, to love, to express, or to connect. But understanding their pain doesn't mean you should carry it. Compassion does not require self-sacrifice. Breaking away from manipulation begins with recognizing it. You start noticing the patterns, the guilt trips, the sudden mood swings, the emotional blackmail, the selective memory, the blame shifting, the "did this for you" speeches, the twisting of your words, the subtle pressure to please. Awareness becomes your shield. Once you see the manipulation clearly, it loses its power over you. And then comes the most important step: boundaries. You don't need to fight, argue, or prove anything. You simply need to say no with clarity and calmness. You need to remind yourself that your feelings, your needs, your limits matter too. When you stop reacting emotionally, manipulators lose their grip. When you stop explaining yourself endlessly, they lose control. When you stop trying to fix everything, you reclaim your strength. Walking away from a manipulator is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of self-respect. You are not responsible for the storms they create in their mind. You are not responsible for the stories they invent. You are not responsible for their happiness, their stability, or their comfort. You are only responsible for protecting your peace. And once you step away, you'll feel something incredible. A clarity. You'll finally breathe without guilt. You'll think without confusion. You'll feel without fear. You'll realize how heavy that emotional burden was and how much lighter your life becomes when you let it go. Because your heart was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to be respected, valued, and loved with honesty. Your life transforms the moment you choose peace over manipulation. The jealous friend is one of the most emotionally complex and silently painful relationships you can ever experience. Because on the surface, everything looks normal. They smile with you, They talk with you. They share moments with you. But behind that smile lies a storm they cannot control. Jealousy is not always loud. It doesn't always arrive in obvious ways. Sometimes it hides behind compliments that feel slightly sharp, sometimes behind silence that feels slightly cold, sometimes behind jokes that hit a little too close to the heart. And because this person is your friend, their jealousy hurts more deeply than any enemy ever could. A jealous friend struggles with something they may never admit. Your growth threatens the insecurities they've never healed. When you rise, they feel small. When you succeed, they feel defeated. When you receive love, recognition, or happiness, something inside them tightens. It is not because you did anything wrong. It is because your progress highlights the areas of their life they haven't worked on, the dreams they abandoned, the courage they never gathered. Instead of seeing your success as inspiration, they see it as comparison. And comparison is a silent poison that slowly kills genuine friendship. Being around a jealous friend feels confusing. One moment they're warm and supportive, and the next, their energy changes without warning. You can sense the stiffness in their congratulations. You can feel the distance when something good happens in your life. They don't openly criticize you, they simply don't celebrate you. And over time, that lack of genuine joy becomes painfully obvious. You start hesitating before sharing your achievements. You start hiding your excitement. You begin dimming your light so they don't feel uncomfortable. This is where the real damage happens, not externally, but inside you. A jealous friend often behaves unpredictably. They may subtly downplay your accomplishments as not a big deal. They may avoid conversations where you shine. They may suddenly bring up their own achievements to overshadow yours. They may change the topic when you talk about something good. They may become distant before big moments in your life. Or worse, they may become supportive only when you're struggling, because that's when they feel safe. They feel most comfortable when you are not winning, because then the imbalance disappears. And that reveals the truth. They are more attached to seeing you on their level than seeing you free, happy, and rising. But remember, this jealousy is not always born from hatred. Sometimes it comes from admiration mixed with insecurity. They like you, they care for you, they value you, but they don't know how to handle the discomfort of watching someone close to them create a life they themselves desire but haven't achieved. Their heart wants to cheer for you, but their ego holds their hands back. And when ego interferes with friendship, love becomes conditional. You cannot cure a jealous friend by shrinking yourself. You cannot fix their insecurity by dimming your light. You cannot carry their emotional wounds on your shoulders. What you can do is maintain clarity. Be kind but not naive. Be compassionate but not self-sacrificing. Understanding their internal struggle does not mean tolerating behavior that drains your joy. You deserve people who feel happiness when good things happen to you. People whose faces light up when you win. People who clap loudly even when their own lives are quiet. Those are real friends, not the ones who secretly compete, silently compare, or quietly resent your progress. Creating distance from a jealous friend is not an act of cruelty, it is an act of self-preservation. You don't need drama, arguments, or accusations. Just gently create space. Share less, expect less, invest less, protect the parts of your life that are blooming. Surround yourself with people who inspire confidence, not insecurity. Because your growth should never feel like a crime, and your success should never feel like a burden. When you let go of the emotional weight of jealousy around you, your spirit finally breathes freely. You feel lighter. You feel more authentic. You start showing up fully, without guilt, without hesitation, without dimming anything. You begin to understand that your journey is yours alone, and it deserves to be lived in the presence of people who genuinely appreciate your light, not those intimidated by it. Life becomes beautiful when your circle celebrates you, not tolerates you. And distancing yourself from jealousy is one of the most powerful ways to protect your peace, your progress, and your purpose. The drama creator is one of the most emotionally draining personalities you can ever allow into your life, because their presence feels like living inside a constant storm. Even on peaceful days, even when nothing is wrong, even when life is calm, they find a way to stir turbulence. What should be simple becomes complicated. What should be resolved becomes chaotic. What should be peaceful becomes noisy. These individuals thrive not on harmony, but on tension, and they will pull you into their emotional whirlpool without you even noticing it. A drama creator is someone who cannot function without chaos. Their mind is restless, their emotions are unstable, and their reactions are exaggerated. A small issue becomes a big problem. A tiny disagreement becomes a major fight. A simple misunderstanding becomes a personal attack. They interpret normal situations through a lens of insecurity, fear, and impulsiveness. And because of this, your relationship with them feels unpredictable. You never know when they'll explode, complain, overreact, or create a scene. The dangerous part is that drama creators often believe they are the victims. In every situation, every argument, every conflict, somehow the blame magically shifts away from them. They don't reflect, they react, they don't communicate, they accuse. They don't calm down, they amplify. Their emotional instability becomes your emotional responsibility. Suddenly, you find yourself constantly trying to settle their mood, soothe their frustration, clarify their misunderstandings, handle their reactions, and by the time you finish calming one storm, they've already begun creating another. Being around a drama creator is like walking on emotional eggshells. You never know which word will trigger them. You never know which silence will offend them. You never know which boundary they will take personally. You begin adjusting yourself, not to maintain peace, but to avoid conflict. And when you start living like that, something inside you begins to suffocate. You lose emotional freedom because their chaos demands your constant attention. You lose clarity because they magnify every small detail until it becomes confusing. You lose energy because they pull you into fights and discussions that don't even matter. You lose your peace because their life becomes your responsibility. Drama creators often involve multiple people in their problems. They love telling stories, exaggerating events, adding emotion, spreading conflict, and creating tension among others. They bring others into a situation that never needed a second person. They spark misunderstandings between people who were fine. They create toxicity through gossip, assumptions, and emotionally charged storytelling. The more confused everyone becomes, the more powerful they feel, because drama gives them relevance, attention, and a sense of control. But here's the deeper truth. Drama creators are not bad people. They are hurt people. Their need for chaos often comes from emptiness, insecurity, loneliness, or unresolved emotional wounds. Drama gives them significance. Drama gives them excitement. Drama makes them feel alive. Without drama, they feel invisible. Understanding this helps you see the compassion behind their actions. But compassion does not mean you should allow them to drown your peace. Your peace is not a gift you owe anyone. Your stability is not something you should sacrifice for someone else's chaos. Your mental health should not be the price you pay to keep someone else emotionally entertained. The most powerful step you can take is detaching without bitterness. You don't need to argue with them. You don't need to explain yourself endlessly. You don't need to justify your boundaries. You simply step back, slowly, calmly, quietly, because when you stop participating in their drama, it loses its power. Limit how much personal information you share, because drama creators use stories as fuel. Limit how much emotional energy you invest, because they will drain it instantly. Limit how deeply you engage, because deeper engagement means deeper chaos. And as you step away, something magical begins to happen. Your mind becomes quieter. Your heart becomes lighter. Your decisions become clearer. Your life becomes calmer. You start realizing how much energy you were wasting on situations that didn't matter. You begin rediscovering peace you hadn't felt in years. You notice how peaceful life actually is once you stop letting someone else manufacture storms in it. Drama isn't a personality trait you must tolerate. It's a cycle you must escape. Because your future cannot be built on emotional fires someone else keeps lighting. Your growth cannot happen in an environment where chaos is normal. Your happiness cannot survive in a space where peace is always interrupted. By distancing yourself from drama creators, you don't just protect your peace, you protect your destiny. You create space for healthy relationships, calm communication, emotional stability, and meaningful connections. Life finally becomes what it was always meant to be: simple, peaceful, and beautifully balanced. And that is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Time waster is one of the most quietly dangerous people you can allow into your life, because they don't destroy your peace with negativity, they destroy your future with distraction. They don't come with bad intentions. Often they come with friendship, comfort, or familiarity. But without realizing it, they slowly pull you away from your goals, your purpose, and your growth. And the saddest part, you don't even notice the damage until months or even years have passed. Time is the most valuable thing you have. Money can return, opportunities can return, but the hours you spend, they never come back. And time wasters are experts at consuming those hours without giving anything meaningful in return. At first, it feels harmless. Just one more hangout, just one more call, just one more late night chat. But one turns into five turns into 10, and soon you begin shrinking your dreams to fit someone else's comfort. Time wasters are not always lazy people. Sometimes they are fun people. Sometimes they are charming people. Sometimes they are people you love deeply. That's what makes it harder, because you don't realize that their distraction is robbing you of discipline. They don't encourage your goals. They don't remind you of your potential. They don't push you toward progress. Instead, they keep you stuck in cycles of fun, comfort, or meaningless routines that feel good in the moment but leave you empty afterwards. These are the people who call you at midnight to talk about something that could have waited. The ones who insist you take a break when you're finally building momentum. The ones who convince you to skip something important because you can do it later. The ones who don't understand the difference between your free time and your focused time. The ones who emotionally drain you with unnecessary drama, attention, seeking, or endless chat that serves no purpose. And slowly, without any obvious warning, your life begins to reflect their habits. You start procrastinating. You start delaying your responsibilities. You start losing consistency. You start forgetting your own priorities. Not because you lack ambition, but because your environment lacks direction. Time wasters rarely understand boundaries. They feel entitled to your time. They expect immediate replies. They assume you are always available. They think your schedule must bend around their wants. And when you finally say, "I'm busy," or "not right now," they become disappointed, offended, or even passive aggressive. That emotional reaction pulls you back into guilt, and guilt pulls you back into giving them more of your time. But here's the truth you must accept: protecting your time is not selfish, it is essential. Every great achievement requires focus. Every dream requires sacrifice. Every goal requires discipline. And you cannot stay disciplined if you are constantly surrounded by people who have no respect for their own time, let alone yours. Distance from time wasters doesn't always mean ending the relationship. It often means redefining the relationship. It means creating clear boundaries. It means saying no without explaining yourself. It means choosing your priorities instead of other people's boredom. It means valuing your future more than someone else's temporary entertainment. When you start protecting your time, you will notice something incredible. Your mind becomes sharper, your goals become clearer, and your life becomes more meaningful. You begin feeling proud of yourself again. You start making progress that once felt impossible. You start attracting people who are driven, focused, disciplined, and supportive. Your environment transforms because you stopped letting everyone access the most precious asset you have. One day, you will look back and realize that success didn't come from big changes. It came from small decisions, like choosing to focus instead of being distracted, choosing growth instead of comfort, choosing meaningful moments over empty conversations. And all of that starts with creating distance from the people who waste your time. Not because they are bad, but because your life deserves direction. Your dreams deserve commitment. Your future deserves your presence. And once you start valuing your time, the universe begins valuing your journey.